Okay, hello and welcome. If you're watching this live, type in hashtag live, and the people watching the replay, type in hashtag replay. I've got my
Hello,
lovely
George.
co-host, Christina Markoski,
Hello.
and I'm back from the USA,
Welcome
which is great.
back to Australia, George. How was
Thank
America?
you. Look, the United States was very exciting. And look, this is the interesting thing. I was going just after the election. So I
Yeah.
got to the United States, I reckon about 8th or 9th of November.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, I was thinking, if Trump loses, there's certain states I don't want to be in
Yeah.
because, especially the swing states, would have been crazy. But Trump won, and people in America, the people that I saw, are very excited about it. Because I mainly work with, when I go to America each year, every November, I go there to meet some of the top business leaders and coaches around the world. And these are people that have got, you know, 10, 20, 100 billion dollar businesses doing coaching and helping people. And I always like to be in a room with people that are smarter than me because I want to get better at what I do. Because I'm really good at property, but I want to get better at coaching and better at serving our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to some of the big business people from America there, and a lot of them were involved with the Trump thing, and everyone is very excited about what he's going to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So the stock market went up, Bitcoin's gone up, people are very positive. There's people driving around these big cars with Trump on there. Uh, I I was at the fight with Mike Tyson, and there was this rapper there, and he's got a Bitcoin tattoo on his head, and he's got a little doll made out of gold, a Trump doll hanging around his neck in a big gold chain. Like hilarious. Like the Americans do things that are
Like
very
an
different from
interesting
us.
character.
Fascinating character. The guy had grills and just tats everywhere. Right. So yeah, interesting. Obviously, a lot of money if it was there at the floor because we were right in the front with Adam. We went to watch Mike Tyson fight. There was 80,000 people around us. It was pretty exciting. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it actually broke Netflix because
Really?
there were so many people streaming and watching it. Yes.
Wow. There you go.
And I
So,
watched it live and I saw it happen.
did you see me in the crowd?
50-50. It was a split second. Could have been you, could have been a guy that looks like you.
Must have been a good-looking guy.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. So, tonight we're going to be talking about 10 in 10 property formula,
Yes,
right?
this is exciting.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about this because what I'm going
Mm.
to do is I'm going to show the presentation to our live streaming and everyone can see it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lock into our private group and go through some more finer details and also
Mm.
how to get past the roadblocks. Because
Okay.
getting 10 properties in 10 years sounds like an surmountable thing. It sounds very difficult,
Hmm.
right? But it's a really good goal to have. I personally think, I think the number one goal should be this. If you haven't done this yet, your number one goal should be to replace your income through property. That should be your number one goal, not 10 in 10 properties. That could be a second or
Okay.
third goal
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think the
Because then that's
first one,
bonus income on top of, what you're earning from your day job, your day-to-day, your work life. If you can replace that with passive income, then every property you get after that is a massive bonus.
yeah, I really think that should be your number one goal, replace your income.
Replacing your income, like your baseline is, yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
goal to
because,
have,
because
definitely.
I think the biggest leverage, the biggest thing that property can do for you is give you passive income to replace your income. Because that's
Hmm.
the number one thing it can do for you. 10 properties will be great, and that's even better. But once you replace your income, that's the game changer. When you replace your income, get a little bit more, sure, it's fine, but it's not going to be the big game changer that replace your income is. Because when you replace your income, then I call this FU money, right? This is literally where your boss says, I want you to do this. And you can say, F you, I don't need to, right? Because you can do what you love doing and what passion. And some people, they work somewhere where they love it anyway. That's great. But many people like me, I didn't like my job at all. I hated it. So, I needed the FU money because I wanted to tell my boss where to go, right?
Yeah.
And even when I was running businesses, I didn't like it. It was stressful. I hated it. And retiring off property gave me the ability to find something I love, which is great, which is what I do now, which is amazing. So I'll go through the presentation and talk to everyone about this, and we'll go along. Let's have a look here. Okay, sharing screen. Can you see my screen?
I can see some smiley faces. I can see a red and green smiley face.
Okay, I'm going to try to put this full screen. How's that?
Yep.
Oh, look at this.
Done it.
My Macintosh game is getting better. So these are the three questions I want to ask, right? I want to get back to basics. How do I know that I've got the right property? Einstein, sorry, that's my dog. How do I pause this? Typical. He always plays up when we're both on a Zoom, doesn't he? He knows. Naughty dog. Okay. So how do I know I've got the right property? We've got a little scale here. And negative equity is down.
Going from 1 to 10.
Then flatlining. Then you've got average returns. And then you've got golden goose.
Right. So 1 is negative equity, 10 is golden goose.
Yep. And you know where we want to be. We want to be golden goose. And that's why the top 100 comes in handy. Then we've got cash flow, right? Going broke, money pit, pocket money, or cash cow.
So the second question is, how can I create a portfolio that prints money?
That's right. Now, the cash flow question gets answered by the growth question, because average growth in Australia is 7% per year. Rent average growth is 8% per year. And as your growth goes, your capital growth goes, the cash flow piggybacks on top of that. Then you've got security. How can I protect myself, right? Have you got a house of cards, bargain basement, isolated risk, or bomb shelter? That's the three questions. Now,
should people be rating themselves of where they are on that scale of 1 to 10?
I just thought I'd just say the questions, because I'm going to go into the 10 properties in 10 years. So if you look at what people are wanting, why do people come and see me? Because they want to purchase the property, right? But that's just the surface. That's the tip of the iceberg. If we look deeper down, we've got the three questions: growth, cash flow, security, which is the important part, because you just don't want to buy a property. You want one that's going to grow, one that's going to give you cash flow, one that's you're not going to lose. But then deep down underneath that, what are we really looking for? Right? And this is what we're looking for, really. Money for life. Because money for life is really what we're looking for, not really purchasing a property. We want a property that can give us money for life. And that's the important thing, because I really believe that's what we deserve. And if you do this properly, you're going to get money for life. Literally. I know, because I've done it and I've helped lots of people do it over and over.
Now, we had a great question from iPhone. Isn't 7 to 8 properties the same as, say, 10 properties in 2007 based on rents and prices for a house? So therefore we could do 8 in 8 and be comfortable.
Look, the 10 in 10 is a number that engages you and gets you excited, right? Because I wanted to explain this to people on how to do it. And when I came across the 10 properties in 10 years, people got it and said, yes, okay, that's what we want. Because, there was a guy, funny enough. So I talk about 10 properties in 10 years. And I was talking about this, and there was a guy in Melbourne who launched a program, 10 properties in 12 months, right? A bit like, the 6-minute abs, and someone says, okay, I'll give you 5-minute abs.
Mm.
But, if you know the fundamentals of property, getting a proper portfolio that's going to give you money for life, you're not going to be able to do that in 12 months because you just don't have time for the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because really what we're doing with property is we're using inflation. Inflation is the fuel for your whole property journey. And that's why we say time in the market is more important than timing the market, because the biggest thing in property is the inflation. But if you look at a bell curve, right? Because you've got the blind buyers here, and then you've got their work with fear and ignorance. You've got the retail buyers, right? They've got a bit of knowledge. Informed buyers, they've got positioning, and then you've got insider investors. And that's what we are. And they're right at the tip. That's 1% of people invest as inside investors. And that's where you want to be on the bell curve, because these guys are getting the return that you want to get to build your portfolio. And this is all about connections, about who you know. Because you go from ignorance, you don't know what you're doing. You got a bit of knowledge, you can buy retail. You got the right positioning and timing, you're going to do better. But you've got the right connections. That's where it all comes together, because the keys to opening the door is all about connections. And that's part of us being a part of a buyers group, because we've got so many members. That gives us the connections.
Yeah.
And it's a flywheel. You can't be one person and get all the connections. I got better connections now than what I had when I was an investor on my own. So let's go through and talk about the 10 in 10 years. So I'm going to go to that part. Okay. What I want to talk about is structure and tax deductions to start with, because this is one of the key components, right, of getting the right property to get 10 properties in 10 years. So the owner occupier you've got your net wage. They take out your super and your tax. There's not a lot left over. And what happens is you've got to pay for what's ever left over. Now, this is one of the hardest things you can do in your life, is pay off your own occupier. Very difficult, because you're doing it all on your own. There's no tax savings, no nothing. But with an investment property, what we're doing is we can use some of our tax and our depreciation, and then we get rent as well, tax and rent to help us. So this way, what happens is we're leveraged, because the key to getting your 10 properties in 10 years is getting as much leverage as you can. If you think you can do it yourself, the old way, you got the old way where you got, the Greeks, the Italians, the Macedonians that come to Australia and they work hard and get cash and they want to pay off their mortgage and work really hard. And they don't have a life, and they put it all in there. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get a tenant and tax man to do it, and let the inflation do it, and do it the easy way, because that's the important part. So that's important. And then we get the tenant and tax man to pay most of it. But what we do is we use depreciation, right? And depreciation, you've got bricks and mortar, fit out, loan cost, and tax deductible. But not every property is suitable. So what you need to get the maximum depreciation, you see, $450,000 pre-1985, you get zero. $450,000 property built 2000, you get 1,600. But a brand new property today, you're going to get 12,000 the first year. So what I love about depreciation is this. Robert Kiyosaki, my mentor, I would say friend from the USA, he says that, the rich, you got to be like the rich, and you want to lose money on paper, but make it in real life. And this is the real key, because everyone here listening to me right now, you're going to be paying tax until you retire or you die. That's the fact of it. And the one way we're going to get around that, the only one way legally we're going to get around it here in Australia, is through depreciation. And that's why this is so powerful. And this is the cornerstone, because we're going to be getting 12,000 the first year. But if you look at this, it's about $80,000 per property over 10 years. That's powerful because if we're talking 10 properties, there's $800,000 in tax deductions over the next 10 years I'm going to get. That is one of the secrets to my portfolio. The reason I became so wealthy through property is because of my tax deductions and because of inflation pushed my property prices up and my rent up. They're the two levers, the most powerful things that I used to get where I am. And that's the two most powerful things you're going to have, because the tax deductions and the inflation is going to make more money than you can make working. And then what we do, if you're an employee, is we get the depreciation schedule, get an accountant to do an ITWV, and then they approve it. And then you get a letter from the accountant from the ATO to your boss, so you can get money back on a weekly basis or fortnightly, depending how you get paid, or monthly. So normally, if you're getting $2,000 a week, your net pay is $1,410. Now, this actually was done pre-June, so I'd imagine I have to change this figure slightly. I've just realized now, because this presentation's old. The ATO will take $590, probably a little bit less than that. And then he's laughing all the way to the bank. But what we're going to do is we're going to now get a depreciation schedule, and we're going to get extra $85 a week in our pay packet to help us pay for that investment property. That's powerful, because then basically now, at the current interest rate now, instead of paying $230, we'll get 230 minus 85, right? A lot cheaper. And that's going to make it easier to get multiple properties. Because when I first started investing, I was losing $300-400 per property because I didn't understand depreciation. I didn't understand interest only. And it made it very difficult for me. And I got stuck. And then I learned how to get unstuck. And that's why I'm teaching now, how to get unstuck beforehand. So our choices are: we can give our money to the tax department, or we can get our money and invest it in positive property. Excuse the pun. Now, if you had a $450,000 property, with all the stamp duty and loan and the lawyer's fee, it's going to cost $463,000, including stamp duty, legals, costs. Then you get $450 rent plus the $85 tax variation. Then that's $535 income, and then $438 interest, bank interest, 666 costs, 504. So this one's 31 positive now after the depreciation. Where do you get deposit? Well, we get cash, equity in your home, super, and SMSF. That's a very big thing people do. You get creative finance or joint venture. But your home equity is the best way to invest. I'd rather, if you had $100,000 in the bank and you had equity in your house, I would say keep the $100,000 in the bank, use your equity, buy a property, then get your $100,000 and put in an offset account, and then you're paying less interest and you've got more security. That's the way to do it. Cash flow is king, but cash is the second best thing. And we want to keep as much cash as we can in our hands, not in the bank's hands. So people with a mortgage is basically a pile of money in their living room that they've got that they can use to create wealth. And then you got the mortgage, right? And this is the old way of doing a mortgage. And the old way of doing a mortgage is principal and interest. So you got a $500,000 property at $350,000 loan at 7%. The principal and interest is $19.90 per month. That's going to be $19.90 per month for the next 25 years. It's never going to change. But you're not paying hardly any principal at the beginning. It's all calculated right at the end, because the banks create a loan that serves them, not you. So what we're going to do, we're going to do interest only. There's $14.90 per month. Now, that $500 we put in an offset account. Now, funny enough, we're paying the same money, But now every time we put that 500 in offset account, that 14.90 per month goes down and you pay less and you've got more left over to pay more off the loan. But then we're going to get our wages. We're going to stick that in there. Then our bills, we're going to get 30 to 55 days interest-free credit card. And our groceries, petrol, restaurants, bills, living expenses, we're going to pay on our credit card. So therefore our bills sit in our offset account for up to 55 days as well. So what we're effectively doing is getting our wages, getting any extra money, and getting our bills to reduce our interest, so reduce how much we pay per month, so we've got more left over to put in an offset account, which is a compounding effect. So we're literally using compounding interest against the banks. So this is beautiful. And the banks will never offer for you to do this. We pay the credit card in full because we want to pay that interest on credit cards. It's too much. And then your home loan's paid off in 11 years, saving you 19 years on a 30-year loan. And this is the graph here, where the red is what you would have paid and the blue is what you pay now. And you can see the little dinks. That's every month as your bills get paid off and it goes through because it goes up and down. Now, to reduce it even lower, what we do is we get the equity and put it in investment property, and then the rent goes through here. Then we get another investment property and keep going. Every time you get an investment property, even if it's negative, it's still paying off your interest on your home loan because it's traveling through your offset account. So if you look at this, this is the formula. And then what we do is we get one and we get another one and we keep going. And really, this is getting 10 properties in 10 years, which will give you $5 million worth of value. And the goal is to get 10 properties in 10 years at a yield of 5%. That's $250,000 per year income, passive income per year. So let's recap. We can do it the old way and pay full tax in a broke at age 65. Or we can swap our tax for high growth passive cash flow assets. We can claim the depreciation. We can do an ITWZ. We can put more money in your weekly pay packet. We can lower our tax to virtually zero legally. We can pay off your home loan half the time. We can save hundreds of thousands of dollars interest to the bank and build a passive income that goes up every single year. So that is the 10 in 10 property formula. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how this works in real life, because it's all fair and good to see this presentation and look at 10 properties in 10 years, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But how does it work in real life? That's the
How do
question.
we do it? Yeah. Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, how do we do it? And is it possible for people to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the other question. That's the other question. Is it possible? How do we do it? I'm going to answer the question about is it possible to start with. The thing is it possible? Yes, because I've seen people do it. I've done it myself. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard to start with and do it. Can everyone do it? Not everyone can do it. Everyone's got a different capacity with what they can do and what they're willing to do. And everyone knows their own situation, because at the end of the day, I'm going to share my screen and do a bit of drawing. At the end of the day, we're
heading into
before
a private group now first, though, George, aren't we?
We're in the private group. We're going to switch it off in a minute. We're going to just keep it open for a little bit longer. You're going to go through questions, Christina.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're going to go through questions. And once the questions get personable, we're going to switch off the public group. How's that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we went
7 to 8 properties? Oh, I just read that one before. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you overcome a max loan capacity with an average salary in order to purchase more properties? Can you still get 8 to 10 properties?
Yeah, let me get into that. Okay. So let me share my screen and show people how this works in real life, because we spoke about the goal and the ideal of 10 properties in 10 years, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think That's a good goal. And remember, we said, let's replace our income. That's probably the best thing we can do. My Apple Pencil is dead,
Oh, no.
just as I need it. Christina, do you mind bringing your Apple Pencil upstairs to me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I've got Christina's Apple Pen and I'm in business. So we've got John and Mary here. And John and Mary, they want to invest in property, right? And what's going to happen is John and Mary have got a house. They've got equity in that house. They can use that. They've also got a bank account. And they've got an SMSF. They haven't set one up, but they've got money in their super. Oh, I can't.
Are
I
you
don't think anyone
supposed to be
see.
sharing something?
Yes, I'm going to start again. Sorry.
All I can see is your face.
Yes.
But it's a lovely story.
It'd be better if I draw, but you know my drawings are
We
not
would
that good
like
anyway.
some visuals here.
Christina, I don't know if drawing's going to really be a help, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. We've got John and Mary. They come from Stickland. They're very skinny. They've been on a diet. I don't know if you can see that. They're both in the calorie restriction. They're into fasting. They don't eat breakfast. Anyway, so John and Mary, they've got a house. They've got some money in their bank. And then they've also got super. Right? And John, he's got an ABN. And Mary, she's got a job. So when they start on their property journey, we're going to look at them and go, okay, where are we at? How are we going to start? Because the long game is 10 properties in 10 years. Now, time in the market is what makes you money. And because time in the market makes you money, what you want to do is get as many properties early on and let them grow. That's the key. So we're going to find out about their equity here, find out how much money they've got in the bank account, and find out how much super they've got. And also, they've got an ABN in the job. Let's check out the income. So there's two constraints when it comes to borrowing money and getting a borrowing capacity, right? One is your income. And number two is your deposit or equity. Everyone follow that? So what we're doing as we're going along on our journey is to get our borrowing capacity up. We're trying to increase our income and we're trying to increase our equity and deposit, because those two things we're going to assess as we go along to help us get more properties. Now, there's also what happens as we go along is the market is going up or down, but also interest rates may be going up or down, and policies may be changing as well. So at the moment, the big four banks are pushing to have less regulation when it comes to loans. They're trying to make it easier. So policy for loans gets harder, then gets easier. Interest rates go up, then they go down. And as that happens, your borrowing capacity is going up, going down, going up, going down. So it doesn't stay the same. It goes up and down. Sometimes it gets harder, sometimes it gets easier. Now, one thing that happens though, as time marches on, is hopefully your income is going up and your equity is going up, and so is your deposit. So when you first start out, what's going to happen is we're going to look at the equity. We're going to look at the bank balance and the super. And then hopefully you can use the equity to get 1 or 2. And you can use a SMSF to get 1. That's usually the case. So you're going to get between 1 to 3 properties when you first start out. Right? And you also, a lot of people already got their own occupier as well on top of that. So then suddenly, within a year and a half, 2 years, you can end up with 4 properties. And you still got 8 to 9 years left to build that portfolio, which is exciting. Now, some people can start with 1, some people can start with 3 or 4. That's where we end up. So then what happens is we've got our houses, and our houses are slowly going up every year. They're averaging around about 7%. Now, sometimes they're going to go up a little bit faster, sometimes a little bit slower, but that's the average. And then your rent normally goes up around about 8%, but sometimes the lagging indicator. So what happens is first the equity goes up and the rent follows. Then hopefully, if you're good at your job, your income actually goes up. And if you've got an ABN, you've got a business, that goes up as well. So then what we do is you start off, you get 1, 2, 3, or 4 properties. And then once you get those properties, your borrowing capacity is going to be tapped out. So wherever it's 1 property, but let's say John and Mary, they've got 3 and they've got their own occupier. Well, then they're tapped out. They can't borrow any more money. The bank says no. Your borrowing capacity is finished. You can't borrow. You've got too much leverage. What happens is we've got 1 year. This one goes up 7%. This one here has gone up 2%. And this one's gone up 15%. And someone here has gone up 8%. And then we've got different amounts of equity. We also put an offset account on that one. And because we've got an offset account on that one, we're putting money into the offset account every month. So we're saving. This one's a super property, so we can't actually touch that anyway. So we're going to leave that and let it go. Because what happens with super, property in your SMSF, you can't actually use the equity to buy again. So the normal structure of super is you wait for it to go up until it gets big enough where you got lots of equity, and then you can sell that, and then you can turn that into 2 properties. But with these properties, we're waiting for the equity to go up, and as the equity goes up, then we can refinance, get that equity out of those 2 properties, and then suddenly we've got another property that we can add to it. And every time you add a property, what's going to happen is you're going to tap out your borrowing capacity. You've waited a year or 2, you've chucked another property on, you've had 3 here, you've got 4, 5. So let's say it took two years, you got year 3, you got 5 properties. Then you got 5 properties growing and the income growing. So therefore it happens a lot quicker. So then suddenly in a year's time, you've got 5 properties gone up, you can get your 6. And it expands from there. Have you got any questions?
Yeah, we've had a lot come through.
Yes,
So
great.
how's it looking into the market next year with the mining crisis?
Look, the thing with the market is there's always going to be a crisis somewhere of the market. And the one thing about property is it's a matter of just buying property and holding and not worrying about a mining crisis or anything else like that, because we're going to focus on the long-term game. The people that make money in a property is the people that buy property and hold it and buy regularly. Because when you buy property regularly, it balances out the ups and downs. But the fact of it is, the next 10 years in property in Australia, because of the housing crisis and immigration, is going to be a big bull run. So I'm very bullish when it comes to property until our immigration slows down. And I'll let everyone know when that happens. So it's all a matter of supply and demand. And the supply and demand in Australia for property is crazy high. And yes, there's actually apartment blocks in Sydney and Melbourne that have gone down in value. But I've been saying to people this for a long time, do not invest in those, right?
Same old, same old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, there's a lot of apartments now in Melbourne and Sydney that have gone down to below 2010 prices,
Wow.
right? Imagine buying a property and losing all the money on it. And that's what happens when you buy the wrong property,
Yeah, definitely.
right? The fact of it is, you know, you shouldn't be buying those big apartment blocks. And that's what's happening. It's terrible. Now,
Yeah.
it's shocking when you think about it because, it's 2024. Imagine that 14 years and it's gone down below 2010 property market.
Hmm.
And that's what I've been saying. Capital cities, especially at Sydney and Melbourne, the CBD and the units there are there's an oversupply. And the supply and demand thing's always going to be a factor when it comes to property.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Joanne said, I wasted so many years paying off my mortgage the old way. That's okay. At least you can
Yep,
do it the smart way now.
exactly. I did too. So don't worry.
Mhm.
I did principal and interest. I did it the wrong way. I did
Yeah,
everything.
you're not the only one. You're not alone there.
Mm.
iPhone said most brand new properties are taking 18 to 24 months to be built. How are we getting one per year with this delay? That's a great question.
That's a great question. Yes, that is a challenge at the moment. And so it's going to slow down what's happening. So because there's such a tight supply, what's happening, it's taking longer to build your property and get it. But as it's building, it's going up.
Okay, it's not easy and as smooth as you said. There are lots of hidden fees.
Mm,
I don't know who said
yes.
that.
Yes, it's not as easy and smooth as I said. Absolutely not. The fact of it is, people think, I'll show you 10 in 10 properties and it looks like this, right? And you're like, yeah, I'm rich now. I've got all this money. But
If
it's
only.
really, it's like this. Got to go up a hill, got to go down here, swim in this water,
Sometimes it's two
climb
steps back,
climb
one
this
step
big ladder,
forward.
go back
Yeah.
here, go around, get on the plane, jump out of the plane, and then finally, yes, you're here, but you're still rich.
Gonna run the gauntlet.
The thing is, this is the deal, right? We don't want to get stuck in the 10 in 10 properties because some of you may not be able to do 10 in 10 properties, and some of you may do it. The thing is, if you get one good property, you're going to be better off than 90% of Australians.
Hmm.
You get three good properties, you're going to be in top 0.1% of Australians. That's the fact of it, right?
Hmm.
Because, one property in 10 years is going to give you $25,000 income per year going up. Two is going to give you 50,000.
Hmm.
Three properties, 75 grand. It's not too bad. We're starting to go, okay, 75 grand, but you get four properties. There's $100,000 a year.
Now we're talking.
That's not too bad, right? Not too bad
Yeah.
at all. Not too shabby. And
Can you have an offset account to each loan, or is it best to have the one and concentrate on that loan?
yes, good question. The best thing to do is have an offsetting owner occupier because your owner occupier is bad debt,
Hmm.
right? Your investment properties are good debt. So so let's talk about the different stages as well, right? Because what happens is when you first start, stage one, you want to buy as many properties as you can, as fast as you can when you start. That's your goal, right? You just want to buy these properties. You're not paying anything off. You're not paying off your loan at all. Because what we're doing, we've got the offset account, and as soon as there's enough money in the offset account, we put it back in the property, as in buying another property. We've got equity. We get the equity, get another property. So the accumulation phase is we're paying nothing off. We're just putting money in offset account to reduce our interest at that time, but we're going to get that money and use it to buy more property and just keep going. What's going to happen? Once you get enough properties, then we won't need the money in your offset account anymore to buy property because the equity in your house will be big enough. So then we start actually accumulating money in your offset account, which is reducing your expenses, which is getting your borrowing capacity up, right?
Nice.
Because
What
once
if
you've
you
got two
lose
or
your
three,
job or due to some reason your income reduces? Can you still buy more properties?
if you lose your job and your income reduces, your borrowing capacity is going to get tapped out. No, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fact of it. But what you've got is going to keep snowballing. Because the good part is once you've got enough equity to build your portfolio, then suddenly all your cash is yours. And we can use that to start paying off your own occupier straight away. And we've got that extra cash, which gives you extra cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Melbourne properties, is this supposed to be a question or a comment? I'll read it as a question. Are Melbourne properties dropping in value across the board?
There's certain areas that are dropping, especially high-rise units. Right. So if you look at Melbourne prices compared to other capital cities, Melbourne has underperformed. But
Right.
there's still
So
some
there's
good
opportunity.
yes. So I'm looking at this pretty soon. Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth are going to tap out into an 11 o'clock market. And then we're going to look at another market, which could be Darwin, could be Hobart, could be Melbourne. Right. So we're always in the search for the next 7 o'clock market.
Okay, excellent. Government Greens, thoughts on looking at changing to negative gearing and properties per investors?
Yes. The Greens. They're my
That was
favorite.
funny.
They're my favorite party. I love them. They're great. Look, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything. Their ideas about changing negative gearing are just stupid.
Didn't
Most
they
of their
say
ideas are pretty.
like absolutely not, that they could never bring it in? Like it would just never work?
That was so what happened was Chalmers looked into it, and the Labor Party were looking into it. Then the media sort of asked them questions. They said, "No way are we doing
They
it."
said, no way, not in this lifetime.
No, because they already had backlash just thinking about it, right? They didn't even, all they did is think about it, they got backlash.
Yeah. Can we get a link to watch this later tonight?
Absolutely. Of course you can.
The
I don't know if
replay
it's going to happen
should be-
tonight. Don't know if it's going to happen tonight, but it will happen next day or two, I
It's
think.
very ambitious tonight because it's got to calibrate and download and everything. But maybe in a few days' time, check back in the membership site.
Yep, yep. Exactly.
Perfect. Oh, thank you, Kim. It will stay in the Facebook group, and the recording will also be up on the members portal by tomorrow. Oh, amazing.
Yep.
Look at that
Look at that.
turnaround.
What an efficient team. I'm glad.
Absolutely.
Just takes a bit of time for the editors to make me look better looking after I do the filming. Get rid of the wrinkles. Add a filter.
Okay.
Kim's still at work.
Mine is finished next week, exactly 12 months. Okay, there you go. Friend of mine retired on 4 properties and is now wandering the planet.
There you go.
No.
Funny enough, I met a guy in the lounge that retired off property when I was in
A few
LA.
of those
No,
in
because
different
I was
lounges.
yeah, because what happened was I was at the first class lounge with Qantas because now I'm a platinum member, and I posted, and then a friend of mine said, "Oh, my
Humble
friend's
brag.
in the yes," and a friend of mine messaged me and goes, "Oh, my friend's in the business lounge. Can you let him into first class?" I thought I might also use my ability to do that. Why not? So we had a bit of a laugh, and he's been wandering the planet, retired off property.
Cool. Nice stuff. All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Adam. We're looking at Melbourne. If so, I suggest Beveridge. Beveridge, that must be a suburb in Melbourne. Queensland land tax is going under 600K. Is this
Okay,
going
I've done
under
that on that yet.
600? Do you know the answer to that one?
I don't know the exact answer to that, no.
Yeah,
But
you'd have to use a land tax calculator there, Adam. Once you have your desired properties and retire, can you go live elsewhere in the world and let this machine run automated with property managers? How would tax work if
absolutely.
you leave Australia? Yeah.
Yes. Look, you can do that because I've actually done it myself. We live around the world. So
Yeah.
it's very easy to do. So Christine and I live half the year overseas and we live in Bali. So you can definitely do that. So once you get to that stage, because what happens is we go through the accumulation phase. Then after the accumulation phase, we go in the paying off phase where we pay everything off. And then you got the retirement phase where you plan for your retirement and how you're going to do things. Yeah. So it's just a different way of doing things then.
Definitely.
But basically, it still works.
Can equity be accessed only when your property is below 80% LVR?
No, it can be, you can get up to 95% loan, loan to value ratio if you want to. Just depends. So I would rather pay 20% if I can. However, if there's an opportunity to buy a property and I have to pay lender's mortgage insurance, but I can get that property now and I don't have to wait and it's a tight market, I'll do it. So each circumstance is different on what you want to do. So as a rule, we want to keep your costs as low as possible when investing in property, but you're not going to miss out on an opportunity just because the costs are a little bit higher than normal, because the rewards outweigh any of the costs by so much.
Okay. Also, if you have two properties and one property is 85% LVR and the other is 74% LVR, together they are under 80. Can you take part equity out of both?
You have to restructure both loans. So you can do that if you've got variable loans, they're not fixed. Because if one of them fixed, then you've got to break it and it's going to cost you money. That's why I always say go variable, because that way you've got more flexibility in doing what you're doing. And then what you do is you can refinance both of them and move the equity around to make it work.
So,
But
George, the team have just pinged me and asked if you want to keep the Facebook Live still running.
Oh, no, we're going to stop the Facebook Live. Thank you.
You were supposed to let them know, but you didn't do that.
Thank you, everyone. We've stopped the Facebook Live. We're in our private group, but that's okay. They learned something more. It's great.